May 8, 1942, Coral Sea, 350 miles northeast of Australia. The aircraft carrier USS Yorktown burns. 2 Japanese bombs have penetrated her flight deck, one detonating below in the bows of the ship, killing dozens of sailors and rupturing fuel lines. The other exploding in the uptakes, filling engineering spaces with toxic smoke and superheated gases. A 3rd bomb has destroyed her radar, knocked out communications, and started fires in ready rooms where aviation fuel and ammunition are stored. Captain Elliot Buckmaster stands on the bridge, watching damage control parties fight fires that threaten to consume his ship. The Yorktown is listing, her speed reduced to 6 knots, black smoke pouring from her wounds. Overhead, Japanese aircraft circle like sharks around wounded prey, searching for the killing blow. "Captain," reports the damage control officer, Lieutenant Commander John Greenbacker. "Fires are under control in most compartments, but the bomb damage below is extensive. Ruptured fuel lines, destroyed ventilation, casualties in engineering. We need yard time, sir. Months of yard time." Buckmaster surveys his burning carrier. The Yorktown is the 3rd of 3 fleet carriers in the Pacific. Lexington, sunk 2 days ago at Coral Sea. Saratoga, torpedoed in January, under repair in Bremerton. And now Yorktown, crippled by Japanese bombs, barely able to make headway. The United States Navy has exactly 4 operational fleet carriers in the entire Pacific: Enterprise, Hornet, Wasp, and the burning Yorktown. Japan has 6: Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, Shokaku, and Zuikaku. The mathematics are brutal. America is losing the carrier war through attrition, one damaged flat top at a time. "Get us to Pearl Harbor," Buckmaster orders. "Whatever it takes. We need to survive long enough to get home." Over the next hours, Yorktown's damage control teams perform miracles. They seal ruptured fuel lines with wooden plugs. They bypass destroyed ventilation systems. They patch holes in the flight deck with steel plates welded in place while underway. They fight fires, evacuate flooded compartments, restore power to damaged sections. By nightfall, Yorktown is making 20 knots, not healthy, but alive. Japanese reconnaissance reports to Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Enemy carrier severely damaged, believed sinking. The report is premature. May 27, 1942, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. 19 days after the Coral Sea battle, USS Yorktown limps into Pearl Harbor trailing oil, listing slightly, her flight deck scarred by bomb damage and emergency repairs. She looks like a ship that should be headed for the scrapyard, or at minimum for 6 months of major overhaul at a West Coast shipyard. Instead, she's headed to Dry Dock No. 1. Rear Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief, Pacific Fleet, stands on the dock watching Yorktown enter harbour. Beside him is Commander-in-Chief of the US Fleet, Admiral Ernest King, who's flown out from Washington specifically for this moment. "Admiral," King says quietly, "Japanese intelligence indicates a major operation is imminent. Midway Island, probably. Our codebreakers estimate 4 to 6 Japanese carriers, multiple battleships, the largest operation they've ever attempted." "And we have?" Nimitz asks, though he knows the answer. "Enterprise and Hornet, both operational. That's 2 carriers against 6. Both admirals look at Yorktown, burning oil trailing behind her, damage evident even from a distance, crew exhausted from fighting their ship for 3 weeks straight. "How long to repair her?" King asks. "Properly?" The yard estimates 90 days minimum. 3 months of work, replacing bomb-damaged structure, rewiring electrical systems, repairing engines, testing everything. That's if we send her to Bremerton or San Francisco, where we have full facilities. "We don't have 90 days, King says flatly. "If Japanese intelligence is correct, they're moving on Midway in a week, maybe 10 days maximum. We need every carrier we can float. How long to make Yorktown combat capable? Not perfect, not fully repaired, just capable of launching aircraft and fighting." Nimitz considers. The request is impossible by any reasonable standard. Yorktown needs months of work. She has battle damage that requires complete structural replacement, systems that need rebuilding from scratch, equipment that should be torn out and replaced. But Nimitz understands something fundamental about industrial warfare. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. Yorktown doesn't need to be perfect. She needs to be able to launch aircraft at Midway in 10 days. 72 hours, Nimitz says. King stares at him. 72 hours? To repair bomb damage that should take 3 months? Not repair, Admiral. Stabilize. Make functional. Get her to the point where she can launch strikes and recover aircraft. The damage that doesn't affect combat capability, we ignore. The damage that does, we fix with whatever methods get her operational fastest. That's not a repair, that's battlefield medicine. Yes, sir. But battlefield medicine keeps soldiers fighting. Yorktown doesn't need to survive the next year. She needs to survive the next battle. King nods slowly. Do it. 3 days. Then she sails for Midway whether she's ready or not. Because 2 carriers against 6 is suicide. 3 carriers against 6 is merely terrible odds. May 27th, 1942. 0800 hours. Pearl Harbor Navy Yard. USS Yorktown enters dry dock number 1. Before the dock is even fully drained, work crews swarm aboard. Hundreds of civilian yard workers, Navy repair specialists, electricians, welders, pipe fitters, carpenters, damage control experts. Yard manager James Shoemaker stands on the dock, looking up at Yorktown's wounded hull. He's 53 years old, a civilian employee of the Navy Department, and he's been repairing ships at Pearl Harbor since before World War I. He knows what proper shipyard work looks like. This won't be proper shipyard work. Gentlemen, Shoemaker addresses his assembled supervisors and crew chiefs. Normal repair procedures are suspended. We have 72 hours to make this ship combat capable. Not perfect, not to peacetime standards. Combat capable. That means we do whatever works fastest. He pulls out a thick folder, the damage assessment compiled by Yorktown's crew during the transit from Coral Sea. Bomb damage below the flight deck, destroyed ventilation systems, ruptured fuel lines, electrical damage, fire damage in multiple compartments, structural damage requiring welding and plate replacement. This should take 90 days. We have 3. Therefore, we prioritize. Category 1. Damage that prevents the ship from launching or recovering aircraft. This gets fixed no matter what. Category 2. Damage that affects ship safety or combat capability. This gets fixed if time permits. Category 3. Everything else. This gets ignored. Category 3 includes cosmetic damage, non-essential systems, anything that doesn't directly affect combat operations. If it doesn't help launch aircraft or fight the ship, we don't touch it. Clear? The supervisors nod. They understand what's being asked. This isn't shipbuilding. This isn't even normal ship repair. This is emergency trauma surgery on a patient who needs to be back in combat in 3 days. Work schedule: 24 hours a day, 3 8-hour shifts, no days off, no breaks except what's mandatory. Overtime is authorized for everyone. Food will be brought to work sites. Eating while working is encouraged. Material priorities: if you need something and it's in the warehouse, take it. If it's not in the warehouse, improvise. Steal it from other ships if necessary. Admiral's orders: Yorktown gets whatever she needs from whatever source provides it fastest. Safety standards: use common sense, but don't let safety slow critical repairs. We're trying to save this ship so she can go fight the Japanese. Some risk is acceptable to achieve that mission. A civilian foreman raises his hand. Sir, some of these repairs require engineered solutions, proper specifications, design work. Then estimate, Shoemaker replies. Use your experience, make it strong enough to work and light enough to not slow the ship. If it holds together for one more battle, it's good enough. We're not building for the ages, we're building for the next 2 weeks. Another supervisor asks, what about inspections, quality control, testing? Test what must be tested, skip what can be skipped. If a system works, it's approved. If it doesn't work, fix it until it does. No paperwork unless absolutely required. Shoemaker looks at the assembled crew, Civilian workers and Navy personnel, specialists and generalists, experienced craftsmen and young apprentices. They're about to attempt something unprecedented, compress 3 months of shipyard work into 3 days through sheer industrial willpower. This is the most important repair job any of us will ever do, Shoemaker says quietly. If we succeed, Yorktown goes to Midway. If we fail, Admiral Nimitz sends 2 carriers against 6 Japanese carriers and probably loses them both. The entire Pacific War might turn on whether we can fix this ship in 72 hours. So let's fix her. The crews disperse. Within minutes, the sound of industrial work fills the dry dock. Welders striking arcs, pneumatic hammers driving rivets, cutting torches slicing damaged steel, generators roaring, compressors hissing, the organised chaos of hundreds of people working toward a single, impossible goal. May 27th, 1942, 1200 hours. Below deck, forward bomb damage. Chief shipfitter Thomas Mackenzie crawls through the damaged compartments where the first Japanese bomb penetrated. The bomb entered through the flight deck, passed through the gallery deck, and exploded in the lower decks. The blast destroying ventilation trunks, rupturing fuel lines, buckling frames, and killing everyone in the immediate area. The proper repair would be to cut out all damaged structure, fabricate new frames and decking, weld everything to engineering specifications, pressure test all systems, then paint and finish to Navy standards. Mackenzie has 12 hours to make this section functional. "Johnson," he calls to his assistant, "get me the cutting torch. We're removing everything that's structurally compromised. Everything that's bent, cracked, or weakened, it goes." They cut away destroyed structure with acetylene torches, the damaged steel falling away in jagged sections. Where frames are bent, they heat them with torches and hammer them back into approximate alignment. Where decking is destroyed, they weld steel plates over the holes. Not elegant, not to specification, just functional. "Chief," Johnson asks, "shouldn't we replace these frames properly?" "This bent frame we're keeping. It's not to spec." "Is it structurally sound enough to hold?" Mackenzie asks. "Yeah, probably, but..." "Then it stays. We don't have time to fabricate and fit new frames. If it's strong enough to not collapse, it's good enough for now. Keep cutting the destroyed sections. We'll weld patches over everything." They work through the afternoon and evening, cutting, welding, patching. The repair is ugly. A peacetime inspector would reject it immediately, but it's functional. The compartment won't collapse. The structure will hold together through combat stress. By 0200 hours, Mackenzie's team has cleared the destroyed sections, reinforced critical structure, and sealed the compartment. It's not beautiful, but it works. "Next compartment," Mackenzie orders, grabbing his torch and moving deeper into Yorktown's damaged bowels. May 28th, 1942, 0600 hours. Flight deck repairs. Chief Aviation Machinist's mate Robert Dixon stands on Yorktown's flight deck, examining the bomb damage. 2 massive holes, one measuring 20 feet across, the other 15 feet, where Japanese bombs penetrated before exploding below. The steel decking is twisted, buckled, torn. Pieces of the deck simply don't exist anymore, vaporized by the explosions. The proper repair would take weeks. Cut out all damaged decking back to undamaged structure, fabricate new steel deck sections in the shop, fit them precisely, weld them with full penetration welds, grind smooth, test the welds, then apply non-skid coating. Dixon has 48 hours. "Forget precision fitting," he tells his crew. "We're not building a showpiece. We're building a runway. Get me the largest steel plates in the yard. We're going to cover these holes with whatever fits, weld the edges, and move on." The crew hauls up massive steel plates, some salvaged from damaged ships, some pulled from warehouse stock, some cut from steel stockpiles. None of them fit perfectly. That doesn't matter. Lay the plate over the hole. Doesn't have to be exact, just overlap the damaged area by a foot on all sides. Tack weld the corners to hold position. The welders work in rotating shifts, one team welding while another preps the next section. The air fills with the acrid smell of welding smoke, the bright blue flash of arc welders, the clang of steel hammers adjusting plate positions. "Chief," a young welder asks, These welds aren't continuous. We've got gaps. Should we— Are the plates secure? Dixon interrupts. Yeah, they're not going anywhere. But regulation says peacetime standards. This is war. If the plate won't fall through the hull when an aircraft lands on it, it's good enough. Keep welding. We have another hole to patch. By noon, both bomb holes are covered with welded steel patches. They're ugly. You can see where the plates don't quite match, where welds are rough, where the surface is uneven. But they're functional. Aircraft can land on them. Get the non-skid compound, Dixon orders. Pour it over the patches, spread it smooth, let it cure. Then this section of deck is mission capable. A Navy inspector arrives, Lieutenant Commander Phillips, responsible for quality control on major repairs. Chief Dixon, I need to inspect these flight deck repairs before they're approved for— He stops, looking at the rough patches, the uneven welds, the hasty non-skid application. Chief, this work doesn't meet Navy specifications. These welds need to be ground smooth, the surfaces need to be level, Commander, Dixon interrupts, respectfully but firmly. Will an aircraft land safely on this deck? Well, probably, but will the deck hold under combat operations? It should, but that's not— Then with respect, sir, it's approved. We have 72 hours to make this ship combat capable. I can spend 2 days making this deck pretty, or I can move on to the next critical repair. Which serves the mission better? Phillips looks at the patched deck, at the welders already moving to the next repair site, at the impossible schedule they're working under. Approved, he says quietly. But document everything for post-battle inspection. Will do, sir, assuming we survive the battle. May 28, 1942, 1400 hours, engineering spaces. Lieutenant Commander John Greenbacker, Yorktown's damage control officer, leads a team of yard engineers through the ship's engineering spaces. The bomb that exploded in the uptakes filled these compartments with superheated gases and toxic smoke, destroying ventilation systems, damaging electrical cables, warping metal structures. The ventilation system is shot, the yard engineering supervisor explains. We need to replace the entire trunk, pull out the damaged ductwork, fabricate new sections, install and seal everything. That's a 2-week job minimum. Can the ship operate without it? Greenbacker asks. Technically, yes, but these spaces will be like an oven. Crew working down here will be in extreme heat. It's dangerous, probably violates safety regulations. But the ship can fight? Well, yes. It'll just be very uncomfortable for the engineers. Then we skip it, Greenbacker decides. Brief the engineering crew that they'll be working in high heat conditions. Issue extra water rations. Assign additional personnel to rotate shifts, but don't replace the ventilation. The supervisor makes notes. There's also extensive electrical damage. Cables melted by the heat, junction boxes destroyed. Proper repair requires pulling all damaged cables, running new wire through the ship, installing new boxes. That's another week. Can we bypass the damaged sections, run temporary cables around them? It's not to code. The cable runs won't be protected. They'll be exposed to damage. But, yes, we can do that in hours instead of days. Do it. Exposed cables are better than no power. Mark them clearly so the crew knows to protect them during combat. They move through compartment after compartment, assessing damage, making impossible decisions. Each choice is the same calculation. Skip anything that doesn't directly affect combat capability. Jury-rig everything else with whatever solution works fastest. Fuel lines? Patch with rubber gaskets and clamps instead of replacing entire sections. Fire suppression? Test the critical systems, except that some secondary systems don't work. Structural frames? Straighten what can be straightened, reinforce what can't. It's not proper engineering. It's battlefield expedients applied to naval architecture. But it's working. May 28, 1942, 2,200 hours. Damage Control Central. Commander Shoemaker reviews progress reports from all repair teams. They're 16 hours into the 72-hour window. The ship is slowly being transformed from wreck to functional warship. Flight deck, 60% complete. Both bomb holes patched, non-skid applied, minor damage being addressed. Engineering, 45% complete. Main propulsion functional, electrical systems jury-rigged, ventilation bypassed. Fire control, 70% complete. Critical systems operational, secondary systems being restored. Aviation facilities, 55% complete. Fuel systems repaired, ordnance handling functional, ready rooms cleaned. Radar, 40% complete. Replacement parts being installed, testing scheduled for tomorrow. Communications, 80% complete. Most systems operational, final testing underway. The numbers are encouraging but incomplete. They still have massive amounts of work remaining and only 56 hours to complete it. Status on critical systems? Shoemaker asks his team leaders. Main engines are functional, reports the engineering supervisor. Not perfect. We've got some vibration issues that should be addressed, but they'll run. We can make 25 knots, maybe 28 if we push. Flight operations? Deck is functional. Catapults operational. Arresting gear works. Elevators are slow but functioning. We can launch and recover aircraft. Fuel systems? Patched and pressure tested. We're losing some fuel through minor leaks, but nothing critical. We've isolated the damaged sections and rerouted around them. Fire suppression? Main systems work. Some secondary systems are inoperative, but we can fight fires in critical areas. Weapons? All anti-aircraft batteries functional. Fire control systems operational. Ammunition handling works. Shoemaker nods. So if we stopped work right now, could Yorktown fight? The team leaders exchange glances. Probably, the engineering supervisor answers carefully. She's not fully combat capable, but she could launch aircraft, defend herself, maneuver. She's more functional than not. Then we're over the hump, Shoemaker says. The next 56 hours are about improving combat capability, not achieving basic functionality. Keep pushing, but we're going to make the deadline. May 29th, 1942. 1000 hours. Admiral's Conference. Admiral Nimitz walks through Yorktown with Captain Buckmaster, inspecting the repairs. The carrier is transformed, still bearing scars, but functional. Welders are finishing final patches. Electricians are testing restored systems. The ship is alive with purposeful activity. Status? Nimitz asks. Admiral, we'll be ready, Buckmaster reports. Not perfect. We've got jury-rigged systems, temporary patches, workarounds everywhere. But she'll fight. The yard has performed a miracle. They stop at one of the patched bomb holes on the flight deck. The repair is visible. Rough welds, uneven surface, the patch obviously different from the original deck. This wouldn't pass peacetime inspection, Nimitz observes. No, sir, but it'll hold an aircraft. That's all that matters. Ammunition load? Full capacity, aviation fuel topped off. All aircraft aboard and operational. Crew is exhausted but functional. We can sail in 24 hours. Nimitz nods. Japanese intelligence believes Yorktown was sunk at Coral Sea. Their reconnaissance reported her burning and severely damaged. They think she's either at the bottom of the Coral Sea or in California for 6 months of repairs. We're going to surprise them, Buckmaster says. More than that, Captain. We're going to demonstrate something the Japanese don't understand about American industrial capacity. They build beautiful ships to exacting standards, taking years to construct each vessel. We build adequate ships quickly and repair damaged ones in days. They optimize for quality. We optimize for quantity and speed. The Japanese sank Lexington. They think they sank Yorktown. They believe they're winning the carrier war through attrition, trading our carriers for theirs, knowing we can't replace losses quickly. They're about to learn that American yards don't work on Japanese timelines. Nimitz pauses, looking at the scarred but functional carrier. 72 hours, Captain. 72 hours to repair damage that should take 90 days. No other navy in the world could do this. Not the British, not the Germans, certainly not the Japanese. This is what American industrial power looks like. The ability to perform miracles through sheer organizational will and industrial capacity. Yorktown doesn't need to be pretty. She just needs to be at Midway in 4 days, and she will be. May 30th, 1942. 0900 hours. Departure from Pearl Harbor. USS Yorktown backs out of dry dock number 1 exactly 72 hours after entering. Yard workers line the dock, exhausted from 3 days of continuous labour, watching their handiwork depart. The carrier still shows her wounds, visible patches on the flight deck, temporary cables running along exterior walkways, unpainted sections where new steel was welded. She's not pretty, but her engines run smoothly. Her flight deck is functional. Her crew is at battle stations, and she's heading to Midway to join Enterprise and Hornet for the most important naval battle of the Pacific War. Captain Buckmaster stands on the bridge as Yorktown clears the harbour. "Set course for Point Luck," he orders. "Flank speed." "Course set, Captain, making 28 knots. Buckmaster allows himself a moment of satisfaction. 3 days ago his ship was a wreck. Navy estimates said 90 days of repair. Instead, Pearl Harbor Navy Yard performed a miracle, compressing 3 months of work into 72 hours through impossible effort and abandonment of peacetime standards. Yorktown isn't perfect, but she's combat capable. And at Midway, that will make all the difference. June 4th, 1942. 0600 hours. 200 miles northeast of Midway Island. USS Yorktown steams in formation with Enterprise and Hornet, 3 American carriers against the 4 Japanese carriers approaching from the northwest. The odds are terrible, but they're better than 2 against 4 would have been. Lieutenant Commander John Waldron, commanding officer of Torpedo Squadron 8 from Hornet, briefs his pilots in the ready room. His squadron will fly obsolete Douglas TBD Devastator torpedo bombers against the Japanese fleet, knowing their survival chances are minimal. Intelligence says 4 Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, all veterans of Pearl Harbor, all with experienced crews and superior aircraft, were attacking with outdated planes, inadequate torpedoes, and insufficient fighter cover. The pilots sit silently. They understand the mathematics of their mission. But here's what the Japanese don't know, Waldron continues. They think we have 2 carriers. Intelligence intercepts indicate they believe Yorktown was sunk at Coral Sea. They're planning for a 2-carrier battle. Instead, they're getting 3. That 1 extra carrier, the ship they think is at the bottom of the ocean, gives us 50% more strike capability, 50% more defensive fighters, 50% more combat power than they're expecting. So when you're making your attack run and wondering if it's worth it, remember, you're flying from a carrier the Japanese think is dead. You're a ghost attacking from a ship that shouldn't exist. That's the kind of surprise that wins battles. June 4th, 1942. 0830 hours. Bridge of Japanese carrier Akagi. Admiral Chuichi Nagumo stands on Akagi's bridge, receiving reports from his strike coordinators. His 4 carriers have launched attacks on Midway Island and are recovering aircraft when the report arrives. Enemy carriers spotted, bearing 210 degrees, distance 200 miles. Count, 3 carriers. Nagumo stares at the report. 3 carriers. Confirm that count, he orders. Confirmed, Admiral. 3 American carriers identified, Enterprise, Hornet, and... The recognition is uncertain on the 3rd, possibly Yorktown. Impossible. Yorktown was sunk at Coral Sea. Our pilot reports 3 carriers, Admiral, all launching aircraft. Nagumo calls his intelligence officer. Status of American carrier strength in Pacific? The intelligence officer consults his files. Enterprise and Hornet confirmed operational. Yorktown reported sunk at Coral Sea. Our reconnaissance observed her burning and severely damaged. Saratoga in repair at Bremerton, Washington, will not be operational for months. Lexington confirmed sunk at Coral Sea. Wasp in Atlantic Theatre. That accounts for all American carriers. Only Enterprise and Hornet are available for combat in Pacific. Then who is the 3rd carrier? Nagumo demands. I don't know, Admiral. Perhaps our Coral Sea reconnaissance was wrong. Perhaps Yorktown survived and returned to service. In 3 weeks? Nagumo's voice rises. She was burning, heavily damaged, possibly sinking. Such damage requires months of repair at major shipyards. It's impossible for her to be here. Nevertheless, Admiral, our pilots report 3 carriers. Nagumo makes a decision. It must be a different ship. Perhaps Saratoga rushed back into service. Perhaps intelligence was wrong about her status. Whatever ship it is, we face 3 carriers instead of 2. Prepare immediate strike. All 4 carriers launch everything available. If the Americans have 3 carriers, we must sink them all before they can strike us. But Nagumo's strike preparations are too slow. His carriers have aircraft returning from the Midway strike, flight decks crowded with planes being rearmed and refueled. Changing ordnance from land attack bombs to ship attack torpedoes takes precious time. Time the Americans use to launch their own strikes. June 4th, 1942, 10:20 hours. Above the Japanese fleet. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey leads Enterprise's dive bomber squadron in a desperate search for the Japanese carriers. Fuel is running low. If they don't find the target soon, they'll have to return to the carriers or ditch in the ocean. "Target," someone calls. "Carriers below, 4 of them." McCluskey sees the Japanese fleet spread across the ocean. 4 carriers with their destroyer escorts, caught at the worst possible moment. Their decks are crowded with aircraft being rearmed. Aviation fuel lines are open. Ordnance is scattered across the decks. "All squadrons, attack! Target the carriers!" Dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown roll into their attack runs simultaneously, pushing over into 70-degree dives from 14,000 feet. The Japanese carriers try to maneuver, but they're trapped by their own aircraft operations, unable to turn hard with planes on deck, unable to defend effectively with crews busy rearming. The first bomb strikes Akagi amidships, penetrating the flight deck and exploding in the hangar where armed and fueled aircraft are staged. The secondary explosion tears through the ship. Within minutes, Akagi is an inferno. Bombs strike Kaga, 3 hits in rapid succession. Her flight deck erupts in flames. Aircraft, fuel, and ordnance detonate in a chain reaction that guts the carrier. Soryu takes 3 bomb hits within 2 minutes. Her hangar deck becomes a furnace. She's mortally wounded before her crew even understands what's happening. In 5 minutes, 3 Japanese carriers are burning wrecks. Only Hiryu escapes immediate destruction, launching a counterstrike against the American fleet. June 4th, 1942, 1200 hours. USS Yorktown. "Inbound aircraft," the radar operator calls. "Bearing 270, distance 40 miles. Count 18 aircraft. Identified as Japanese dive bombers." Captain Buckmaster orders, "All hands to battle stations. Launch all fighters. Prepare for incoming attack." Yorktown's combat air patrol, Wildcat fighters orbiting above the carrier, race to intercept. Anti-aircraft batteries swivel toward the incoming threat. The ship begins evasive maneuvers, zigzagging to make targeting difficult. But Hiryu's dive bombers are experienced, aggressive, and determined. They break through the fighter screen, through the anti-aircraft fire, through the defensive screen. "Incoming! Dive bombers overhead!" The first bomb strikes Yorktown's flight deck, the same area that was patched at Pearl Harbor. The bomb penetrates the hastily welded steel plates, explodes below, and starts fires in almost the same location as the Coral Sea damage. 2 more bombs follow. One strikes amidships, exploding in the vicinity of the boiler uptakes, again near the earlier damage. The third bomb hits forward, destroying gun positions and starting fires. Yorktown shudders under the impacts. Fires erupt across the flight deck. Smoke pours from her wounds. On the Japanese strike leader's radio, "Scratch 1 flat top. Yorktown is finished." June 4th, 1942, 12:45 hours. Damage Control Central. Lieutenant Commander Greenbacker coordinates damage control from his station deep in the ship. Reports flood in. "Flight deck penetration forward. Major fires in gallery deck. Bomb damage amidships. Boiler room filling with smoke. Fires in multiple compartments. Fuel lines ruptured." It's Coral Sea all over again. Same ship, similar damage, different ocean. But this time, Greenbacker's teams know the ship intimately. They know every patched section, every jury-rigged system, every temporary repair. They know exactly what will fail and how to work around it. "Forward damage. Isolate the fuel lines we repaired at Pearl. Seal that section. Fight the fires from adjacent compartments." Amidships, ventilation is already compromised from Coral Sea damage. Engineers know the drill. High heat, smoke evacuation through emergency hatches. Bypass all damaged systems. "All teams, we fought this before. We know how to save this ship. Get to it. The damage control parties move with practiced efficiency. They're fighting the same damage they fought 3 weeks ago, using the same techniques that saved the ship at Coral Sea. The Pearl Harbor repairs, rough and hasty as they were, give them working systems to build on. Within 30 minutes, the fires are controlled. The ship is damaged, but functional. "Captain," Greenbacker reports to the bridge. "Fire's under control. Structural damage is manageable. We're making 15 knots and can increase to 20 if needed. The ship is combat capable." Buckmaster nods. "Recover our aircraft. Prepare for possible second strike." June 4th, 1942, 14:20 hours. Bridge of Japanese carrier Hiryu. Rear Admiral Tamon Yamaguchi receives the strike report from his returning dive bombers. Enemy carrier hit multiple times, observed burning heavily, assessed as sinking. Yamaguchi studies the reconnaissance photographs. The American carrier, identified as Yorktown based on island structure, is clearly damaged, smoke pouring from multiple hits. "Excellent work," Yamaguchi tells his strike commander. "That's 2 American carriers destroyed. We sank Yorktown at Coral Sea, and we've just finished her sister ship. Enterprise and Hornet remain. Prepare second strike. We'll sink another carrier before nightfall." But as Yamaguchi plans his next attack, a report arrives that makes no sense. "Admiral, reconnaissance reports 3 American carriers still operational. Enterprise, Hornet, and a third carrier identified as Yorktown." "What? We just bombed Yorktown. She's burning." "Yes, sir, but reconnaissance identifies another carrier with Yorktown's island structure, still launching and recovering aircraft." Yamaguchi is confused. His strike sank Yorktown at Coral Sea. His second strike just destroyed a Yorktown-class carrier. Yet reconnaissance reports a third Yorktown. "How many Yorktown-class carriers do the Americans have?" he asks his intelligence officer. 3, Admiral. Yorktown, Enterprise, and Hornet. All are similar but distinguishable by island structure details. "Then we've sunk Yorktown twice." The intelligence officer has no answer. The mathematics don't work. 3 American carriers at the battle, 2 attacked and reported destroyed, yet reconnaissance still identifies 3 carriers operating. The only explanation is impossible. Yorktown survived Coral Sea, was repaired impossibly fast, made it to Midway, was damaged again, and is still fighting. But that would require repair capabilities beyond any navy in the world. "Launch second strike against the undamaged carriers," Yamaguchi orders. "We'll sort out the intelligence discrepancies after we've won the battle." June 4th, 1942, 1540 hours. USS Yorktown. "Inbound aircraft, bearing 280, count 10 aircraft, identified as torpedo bombers." Yorktown's crew scrambles again. They've just finished fighting fires from the dive bomber attack. Now Hiryu's torpedo bombers are inbound, flying low over the water, carrying the Type 91 torpedoes that can break a carrier's keel. "All fighters intercept! All anti-aircraft batteries engage!" The combat air patrol tears into the Japanese formation. Anti-aircraft fire fills the sky with bursting shells. But Hiryu's torpedo squadron is experienced and determined. They bore through the defensive fire, planes falling but others pressing the attack. "Torpedoes in the water! Port side!" Captain Buckmaster orders emergency turn to starboard, trying to comb the torpedo tracks. Turn the ship parallel to the torpedoes so they pass along the hull instead of striking broadside. The maneuver works for most torpedoes. They pass harmlessly along Yorktown's length. But 2 torpedoes strike home. The first torpedo explodes against the port side, near the engine rooms. The explosion tears through the hull, floods compartments and, critically, ruptures the port fire mains and damages the port engine. The second torpedo strikes aft, flooding additional compartments and causing the ship to list. Yorktown shudders to a halt. Power fails throughout the ship. The list increases to 17 degrees. In the smoke-filled darkness of the engine rooms, damage control teams fight flooding water, toxic gases, and the growing list that threatens to capsize the ship. "Counter-flooding," Greenbacker orders. "Flood starboard compartments to correct the list. All non-essential personnel topside. Damage control teams, focus on fire mains and propulsion." The crew fights their ship with desperate skill. They flood starboard tanks, bringing the list under control. They bypass damaged fire mains, restoring water pressure to fight fires. They patch hull breaches with collision mats and shoring timbers. But Yorktown is dead in the water, listing, flooding, unable to operate aircraft. Captain Buckmaster makes the hardest decision of his career. Pass the word. Prepare to abandon ship. June 4th, 1942, 1700 hours. USS Yorktown, dead in the water. Captain Buckmaster stands on the bridge of his dying ship, watching his crew prepare to abandon. Yorktown lists 17 degrees to port, dead in the water, smoke pouring from her wounds. Destroyers circle nearby, preparing to rescue the crew. All crew topside, Buckmaster orders. Orderly evacuation. Wounded first, then non-essential personnel, then damage control parties. But even as the order goes out, Lieutenant Commander Greenbacker approaches. Captain, request permission to keep a skeleton damage control party aboard. Sir, this ship isn't finished. We can save her. Buckmaster looks at his damage control officer. Commander, we're listing 17 degrees with no power. We've taken 2 torpedoes and multiple bomb hits. The ship is flooding. What makes you think we can save her? Because we've already saved her twice, sir. At Coral Sea, and again 2 hours ago after the dive bomber attack. We know every weakness in this ship, every jury-rigged system, every patch. Yes, she's damaged. But I've seen worse damage at Coral Sea, and we brought her home. The torpedoes. Flooded port compartments, damaged one engine. But if we can counter flooding correctly, get the list under control, and restore even partial power, we can save the ship. Sir, the Japanese think they've sunk Yorktown twice. Let's prove them wrong a third time. Buckmaster considers. Navy Doctrine says abandon a ship that's listing heavily, flooding, without power. But Doctrine doesn't account for Yorktown's remarkable damage control teams, for the intimate knowledge they've gained by repairing the ship multiple times. Permission granted, Buckmaster decides. Take whoever volunteers, but if the list increases or flooding gets worse, you evacuate immediately. Clear? Yes, sir. Greenbacker selects his team. Damage control specialists, ship fitters, electricians, engineers, men who fought this ship's damage at Coral Sea, who worked alongside yard crews at Pearl Harbor, who just finished fighting today's bomb damage. About 170 men volunteer to stay aboard the crippled carrier. The rest of the crew, nearly 2,000 sailors, evacuate to the surrounding destroyers, watching their ship from the relative safety of the escort vessels. Yorktown sits alone on the calm Pacific, listing, smoking, appearing dead. But appearances are deceiving. June 4th, 1942, 1800 hours. Damage control efforts. Greenbacker's skeleton crew goes to work with the methodical precision of men who know their ship intimately. First priority, correct the list, Greenbacker orders. Flooding teams, calculate counter-flooding requirements. We need to bring her back to even keel. Chief Shipfitter Mackenzie, who repaired Yorktown's bomb damage at Pearl Harbor, coordinates the flooding operations. They systematically flood starboard compartments, using the ocean itself to balance the ship. It's counterintuitive, deliberately flooding your own ship to save it, but the mathematics work. As starboard compartments fill with seawater, the list gradually decreases. 17 degrees, 15 degrees, 12 degrees, 10 degrees. List stabilizing at 10 degrees, Mackenzie reports. We can get it lower, but we risk overflooding. 10 degrees is manageable. Secure counterflooding at 10 degrees, Greenbacker confirms. Second priority, restore power. We need fire pumps operational and at least one engine running. The electrical gang crawls through dark, flooded compartments with handheld lanterns, tracing circuits, bypassing damaged sections, jury-rigging connections. They find that one fire main is intact. If they can restore power, they can pump water to fight any remaining fires. Generator number 3 is undamaged, reports Chief Electrician Harris. If we can get fuel to it and clear the flooded compartments around it, we can have power in 2 hours. Do it, Greenbacker orders. Meanwhile, in the engine rooms, Chief Engineer Lieutenant Milton Reitmeyer assesses propulsion damage. The port engine is heavily damaged, flooded, with structural damage to mounting brackets. It's inoperable. But the starboard engine is mostly intact. Sir, if we can drain the flooded compartments, Restore electrical power to the starter system and jury-rig the fuel lines, we can get the starboard engine running. One engine, maybe 6 or 8 knots, but it's propulsion. How long? 4 hours if everything goes right. 6 hours if we hit complications. You have 4 hours, Greenbacker says. After that, the Japanese might send more aircraft. We need to be moving before then. The engineering gang works in near total darkness, standing in knee-deep oily water, breathing hot, contaminated air, fighting to restore a propulsion system that was damaged by torpedo explosion hours earlier. It's brutal work in terrible conditions, but they're saving their ship. June 4th, 1942, 2,000 hours, USS Enterprise. Admiral Raymond Spruance, commanding Task Force 16, Enterprise and Hornet, receives reports about Yorktown's status. His staff intelligence officer provides the update. Yorktown dead in the water after torpedo attack. Crew mostly evacuated. Skeleton damage control party remains aboard attempting to save the ship. Japanese carrier Hiryu still operational. We've located her and launched strikes. The other 3 Japanese carriers are confirmed sunk or sinking. Spruance studies the tactical situation. 3 Japanese carriers destroyed. 1 American carrier, Yorktown, heavily damaged. 1 Japanese carrier, Hiryu, still fighting. Status on strikes against Hiryu. Enterprise and Hornet launched full strikes at 1700 hours. Should be attacking Hiryu approximately now. Even as he speaks, dive bombers from Enterprise are rolling into attack runs on Hiryu. 4 bombs strike the Japanese carrier in rapid succession. Hiryu erupts in flames, joining her 3 sister carriers as burning wrecks. All 4 Japanese carriers at Midway are destroyed. The balance has shifted. Japan came to Midway with 6 carriers, 4 at the battle, 2 damaged at Coral Sea. They're leaving with 2 operational carriers and 4 sunk or sinking. America came with 3 carriers. If Yorktown can be saved, they'll leave with 3 operational carriers. If Yorktown's damage control parties can save her, Spruance tells his staff, the Japanese will face something they've never seen. An American carrier that was reported sunk, repaired impossibly fast, damaged again, and still fighting. That's not just tactical victory, that's psychological warfare. It demonstrates American industrial resilience in a way no propaganda could achieve. June 4th, 1942, 2200 hours, USS Yorktown. We have power, Chief Harris reports. Generator 3 is running, fire pumps operational, electrical power restored to critical systems. Throughout the ship, lights flicker on. Pumps begin draining flooded compartments. Ventilation systems start clearing toxic air. The ship is coming back to life. In the engine room, Chief Reitmeyer's team has been working for 4 hours straight on the starboard engine. They've bypassed damaged fuel lines, repaired electrical starters, cleared flooded compartments, and tested every system they can reach. Ready to attempt engine start, Reitmeyer reports. Greenbacker gives permission. Start the engine. Deep in Yorktown's hull, the starboard propulsion system turns over. Once. Twice. Fails. Fuel line problem, Reitmeyer diagnoses. Stand by. More repairs, more adjustments. 15 minutes later. Ready for second attempt. This time, the engine catches. The massive turbines begin spinning, slowly at first, then with growing confidence. The propeller shaft engages. Yorktown begins moving through the water. 3 knots. 4 knots. 5 knots. We have propulsion, Reitmeyer reports, his voice tired but triumphant. Making 5 knots, can increase to 8 knots if we push. Greenbacker climbs to the bridge, where Captain Buckmaster has returned with a small bridge crew. Captain, ship status. List reduced to 10 degrees and stable. Power restored to critical systems. Fire pumps operational. 1 engine running, making 5 knots with capacity for 8. Fires extinguished. Flooding controlled. The ship is damaged but functional. Buckmaster stares at his damage control officer. You're telling me Yorktown is operational? After 2 bomb attacks, 2 torpedo hits, and being dead in the water for 5 hours? Not fully operational, sir, but mobile, defensible, and survivable. We can make it back to Pearl Harbor under our own power. Buckmaster allows himself a smile, the first in a very long day. Commander, you and your team have just performed the most remarkable damage control operation in naval history. This ship has been reported sunk twice by the Japanese. They think we're at the bottom of the Pacific. Instead, we're limping home at 8 knots. He turns to the navigator. Set course for Pearl Harbor. Slow speed. Summon the destroyers to escort us. We're going home. As Yorktown begins her slow transit away from Midway, the setting sun illuminates her battered profile. She lists to port. Smoke stains mark her flight deck. Temporary patches cover her wounds. She's making only 8 knots when her design speed is 33, but she's alive. June 5th, 1942. 0600 hours. Imperial Japanese Navy Headquarters, Tokyo. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto receives the battle reports from Midway. The news is catastrophic. All 4 carriers lost. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu. All sunk or scuttled after being fatally damaged. Hundreds of aircraft destroyed. Thousands of trained aircrew dead. Japan's carrier strike force, the weapon that attacked Pearl Harbor, that swept through the Pacific, annihilated in a single day. American carrier strength? Yamamoto asks. Uncertain, Admiral. We confirm hits on at least 2 American carriers. One identified as Yorktown, though this is impossible since Yorktown was sunk at Coral Sea. Another carrier, possibly Enterprise or Hornet, was also heavily damaged. We assess at least 1 American carrier sunk, possibly 2. So the Americans had 3 carriers at Midway, and we damaged 2 of them. Yes, Admiral. Though, the intelligence officer hesitates. The identity of the carriers is confused. Multiple reports identify a carrier as Yorktown, but Yorktown was sunk at Coral Sea. We cannot explain this discrepancy. Yamamoto understands immediately. Yorktown wasn't sunk at Coral Sea. She was damaged. The Americans repaired her and brought her to Midway. We damaged her again, and she survived again. But Admiral, our reconnaissance at Coral Sea reported Yorktown burning and dead in the water. Severe damage. Such damage requires months of repair. Unless American shipyards work faster than we assumed, Yamamoto interrupts. How long between Coral Sea and Midway? 27 days, Admiral. 27 days. The Americans repaired a heavily damaged carrier, sailed her thousands of miles, and brought her into combat in less than a month. And when we damaged her again at Midway, they saved her again. The room falls silent. The implications are staggering. Gentlemen, Yamamoto says quietly, we have made a fundamental error in assessing American capabilities. We assumed they build and repair ships like we do, carefully, meticulously, taking proper time for proper work. Instead, they build adequately and repair rapidly. They trade perfection for speed. We calculated that we could win a carrier war through attrition, sink their carriers faster than they can replace them, but we cannot sink them faster than they can repair them. Yorktown proves this. We sank her twice, and she survived both times. This changes everything. June 6, 1942, 13:30 hours, 150 miles northeast of Midway. USS Yorktown limps eastward toward Pearl Harbor at 6 knots, escorted by destroyers Hammond, Balch, Benham, Hughes, Anderson, and Morris. The carrier is damaged but stable. 10-degree list, 1 engine operational, fire pumps working, skeleton crew of 170 men still aboard. Captain Buckmaster stands on the bridge, watching the calm Pacific. They've survived 2 days since the battle. No Japanese aircraft have appeared. Enterprise and Hornet are somewhere ahead, providing defensive coverage. The damaged carrier seems likely to make it home. Captain, the lookout calls, destroyer Hammond is coming alongside to provide power and pumping assistance. The destroyer maneuvers carefully alongside Yorktown's starboard side, preparing to pass electrical cables and pumping hoses. With Hammond's pumps assisting, they can drain flooded compartments faster, reducing the list further, improving stability. It's a routine operation. Buckmaster has approved it to accelerate repairs during the slow transit to Pearl Harbor. What he doesn't know is that Japanese submarine I-168, commanded by Lieutenant Commander Yahachi Tanabe, has been stalking Yorktown for hours, waiting for exactly this moment. June 6, 1942, 13:30 hours, Japanese submarine I-168. Lieutenant Commander Tanabe peers through his periscope at the damaged American carrier. For 2 days he's been hunting Yorktown, knowing from radio intercepts that the American carrier survived the battle and is withdrawing slowly. Yesterday he attempted an attack, but was driven off by aggressive destroyer patrols. Today he's found his opening. Target bearing 090, range 1,200 meters, Tanabe announces. Carrier dead in the water, destroyer alongside providing assistance. Perfect target. The submarine's torpedo officer calculates firing solutions. Recommend 4 torpedo spread, 2 aimed at carrier, 2 aimed at destroyer. Tanabe considers. Japanese Type 95 torpedoes are excellent, reliable, powerful, deadly. 4 torpedoes at this range should devastate both ships. Prepare tubes 1 through 4. Target the carrier and the destroyer. Fire when ready. The torpedo officer makes final adjustments. Tubes ready. Fire 1. Fire 2. Fire 3. Fire 4. 4 Type 95 torpedoes leap from I-168's tubes, their oxygen-fueled engines leaving barely visible wakes as they race toward the American ships at 49 knots. All torpedoes running true, the torpedo officer reports. Impact in 60 seconds. Tanabe keeps his periscope trained on the target, watching the tracks converge on the stationary carrier and the destroyer alongside. Dive! Dive! Take us deep! Rig for depth charge attack. June 6, 1942, 13:36 hours, USS Yorktown. Torpedoes in the water! Port side! The warning comes too late. Yorktown is dead in the water, unable to maneuver. Hammond is alongside, physically connected by cables and hoses, unable to maneuver quickly either. Commander Greenbacker, still aboard with his damage control party, sees the torpedo tracks racing toward them. Brace for impact! All hands brace! 2 torpedoes strike Hammond almost simultaneously. The destroyer literally breaks in half from the force of the explosions. Her depth charges, set to safe but primed, detonate as the ship sinks, the underwater explosions killing men still in the water from Hammond's crew. The other 2 torpedoes strike Yorktown. One hits amidships on the port side, almost the exact location where the previous torpedo struck 2 days ago. The explosion tears through already damaged structure, floods engine rooms that had just been partially drained, ruptures fire mains that had just been repaired. The second torpedo strikes forward near the aviation fuel storage. The explosion ruptures fuel tanks, floods forward compartments, and increases the list dramatically. Yorktown shudders from stem to stern. The lights, restored just yesterday, fail again. Power dies throughout the ship. The single operational engine stops. The list increases rapidly. 15 degrees, 20 degrees, 25 degrees. Abandon ship, Greenbacker orders. All damage control parties abandon ship immediately. The 170 men still aboard scramble topside. The destroyer escort vessels, those not hunting the submarine, move in to rescue swimmers. Men slide down ropes, jump into the water, swim desperately away from the carrier that's now listing 30 degrees and showing no signs of stabilizing. Greenbacker is the last to leave, climbing down a rope from the bridge as Yorktown lists toward 40 degrees. From the water, swimming toward a rescue destroyer, Greenbacker looks back at his ship. The carrier that survived Coral Sea, that was repaired in 72 hours at Pearl Harbor, that fought at Midway despite being sunk by Japanese intelligence, that survived 2 more attacks on June 4th, that was brought back to life by his damage control parties. Yorktown is dying. For real this time. June 6, 1942, 1700 hours. Aboard destroyer Benham. Captain Buckmaster, pulled from the water, watches his ship through binoculars. Yorktown lists at 45 degrees now, her flight deck vertical, her island structure nearly horizontal. Water pours into open hatches. The ocean is claiming her. But she's not sinking quickly. Despite the torpedo damage, despite the flooding, despite the extreme list, Yorktown remains afloat. "Sir," reports the destroyer captain, "submarine I-168 escaped the depth charge attack. She's withdrawing at high speed. We lost her." Buckmaster nods, still watching Yorktown, the ship that refused to die. The carrier that Japanese intelligence reported sunk at Coral Sea, that was repaired in 3 days, that fought at Midway, that survived 2 attacks, that was brought back from death by her damage control crews. Now she floats at 45 degrees, abandoned, dying slowly under the Pacific sun. "Sir, should we attempt to scuttle her?" the destroyer captain asks. "Put some shells into her, finish her quickly?" Buckmaster considers. Navy doctrine says scuttle ships that might be captured or salvaged by the enemy, but Yorktown is 300 miles from Japanese-controlled waters, listing so heavily that salvage seems impossible. No, Buckmaster decides. She's earned the right to die on her own terms. We'll stand by through the night. If she's still afloat tomorrow, we'll reassess. June 7th, 1942, 0600 hours, dawn. USS Yorktown is still afloat. After 14 hours at 45 degrees, flooding, abandoned, the carrier remains stubbornly on the surface. Her damage control integrity, even compromised by multiple torpedo hits, keeps her from sinking quickly. Buckmaster assembles a salvage party. If Yorktown can stay afloat this long, maybe she can be saved again. Maybe one more miracle. Volunteer crew members board the listing carrier, climbing up the nearly horizontal flight deck, entering through hatches that are now sideways. They find compartments filled with water at crazy angles, equipment hanging from bulkheads, the ship groaning and creaking, but not sinking. "Assessment?" Buckmaster asks the salvage officer. "Sir, she's got remarkable damage control integrity. Flooding is extensive, but contained to specific compartments. If we could right the ship, pump her out, get a tow, she might make it to Pearl. But the list is too severe. We'd need specialized salvage equipment, calm seas, and days of work." "How long can she stay afloat?" "Unknown, sir. Hours? Days? She should have sunk yesterday, but she's still here. This ship just refuses to die." Buckmaster climbs through the canted interior, seeing the damage, torpedo holes, flooded compartments, destroyed equipment, but also seeing the repairs, patches from Pearl Harbor still holding, jury-rigged systems still in place, the evidence of multiple near-death experiences and repeated resurrections. "Sir," a lookout calls, "the list is increasing. 48 degrees now, 50 degrees. The ocean is finally winning. Slowly, inexorably, Yorktown is rolling over. "Evacuate the salvage party," Buckmaster orders. "All personnel off the ship." They climb back down the tilted deck, descend ropes to small boats, return to the destroyers. Behind them, Yorktown continues her slow roll. 55 degrees, 60 degrees. June 7th, 1942, 0700 hours, the final moments. USS Yorktown lies on her side, port edge underwater, starboard edge rising 30 feet above the surface. Her massive flight deck is vertical. Her island structure points toward the ocean floor. The screws and rudder, designed to never see sunlight, gleam wetly in the morning sun. The destroyer crews stand silently, watching the death of a legend. "She's going," someone says quietly. Yorktown begins her final plunge. The starboard side, the last part above water, slips beneath the surface. Air escaping from interior compartments creates a massive boil of white water. The carrier slides downward, slowly at first, then faster. The flight deck, which launched hundreds of aircraft in 2 years of war, which was patched in 72 hours, which landed planes just 3 days ago, disappears beneath the waves. The island structure, where Captain Buckmaster commanded through Coral Sea and Midway, where decisions were made that changed the Pacific War, submerges. The stern, bearing the name Yorktown in white letters, is the last to go, sliding under the Pacific at 0701 hours. USS Yorktown is gone. Captain Buckmaster removes his hat, holding it over his heart. Around him, hundreds of sailors do the same. The destroyer sounds a salute, 4 short blasts of the horn, the naval farewell for a fallen ship. She was a good ship, Buckmaster says quietly. The best I ever commanded. She didn't deserve to die. Sir, his executive officer says, she didn't die at Coral Sea when the Japanese thought they sank her. She didn't die at Midway when they hit her twice more. She fought until a submarine caught her helpless. That's not a defeat. That's 3 battles won before the final loss. And the work she did, another officer adds. Without Yorktown at Midway, we'd have fought 4 Japanese carriers with 2 American carriers. The odds would have been impossible. Her presence, the carrier the Japanese thought was dead, gave us the margin we needed to win. Buckmaster nods. It's true. Yorktown's contribution to victory at Midway is immeasurable. Not just the strikes her aircraft flew, but the psychological impact of a carrier that shouldn't exist, fighting a battle she shouldn't have reached. The Japanese spent the battle confused about American carrier strength, unsure whether they were fighting 2 carriers or 3, unable to believe that Yorktown could have survived Coral Sea and been repaired so quickly. That confusion contributed to their defeat. June 7th, 1942, 1000 hours. Imperial Japanese Navy Headquarters, Tokyo. Admiral Yamamoto receives the report from submarine I-168. American carrier Yorktown sunk, confirmed by observation. Target capsized and sank after torpedo attack. Yamamoto reads the report 3 times. Yorktown. Finally confirmed sunk. Not reported damaged. Not assumed sinking. Actually observed going down. So we did sink her at Coral Sea, his chief of staff says. And the carrier at Midway must have been a different ship. Perhaps Enterprise or Hornet was misidentified. No, Yamamoto says quietly. Yorktown survived Coral Sea, was repaired in less than a month, fought at Midway, survived 2 more attacks, and it took a submarine ambush to finally kill her. That ship should have been dead 3 times over, but American damage control and American industrial capacity kept bringing her back. He sets down the report. We sank 4 carriers at Midway, ours, not theirs. We finally sank 1 American carrier, but only after she'd already won the battle. That's not a favourable exchange. But we did sink her, the Chief of Staff insists. Yes, Yamamoto agrees. We sank Yorktown, and in doing so, we learned something that should terrify us. American carriers don't die easily. Their damage control is exceptional. Their repair capability is extraordinary. Their industrial system can fix catastrophic damage in days, not months. We plan to win the carrier war through attrition, but we cannot sink American carriers faster than they can repair them. Yorktown proved that. She survived long enough to help defeat us. That's a strategic victory for America, even though the ship ultimately sank. The room is silent. Gentlemen, Yamamoto continues, Midway was not a battle loss. It was a revelation. The Americans are not fighting our kind of war. They don't build perfect ships and preserve them carefully. They build adequate ships, damage them in combat, repair them rapidly, and send them back to fight. That operational tempo, the cycle of damage, repair, return, is faster than we can sustain. We must adapt or we will lose this war. But adaptation would require resources Japan doesn't have, industrial capacity Japan can't match, and time Japan has run out of. The Battle of Midway was decided not by tactics or courage or even by intelligence advantages. It was decided by the industrial capability that allowed 72-hour repairs and the damage control expertise that saved dying ships multiple times. Yorktown is dead, but she's already won. June 15th, 1942, Pearl Harbor Navy Yard. Commander James Shoemaker sits in his office, writing the final report on Yorktown's repair operation. The carrier is gone, but the lessons from her 72-hour repair must be documented, analysed, and institutionalised. His desk is covered with reports, photographs, time logs, material requisitions, the paper trail of an impossible accomplishment. USS Yorktown Emergency Repair Operation, Pearl Harbor Navy Yard, May 27th to 30th, 1942. Damage assessment on arrival. 2 bomb penetrations through flight deck, extensive internal structural damage, destroyed ventilation systems in engineering spaces, ruptured fuel lines, fire damage in multiple compartments, electrical system damage, damaged radar and communications equipment. Standard repair estimate, 90 days minimum. Actual repair time, 72 hours. Workforce employed, 1,400 civilian yard workers, 200 Navy repair specialists. operating on 3 8-hour shifts. Total man-hours, approximately 33,600. Methods employed: suspended normal inspection procedures, prioritized combat capability over peacetime standards, used emergency fabrication techniques, bypassed non-essential systems rather than repairing, accepted temporary solutions over permanent repairs, requisitioned materials from any available source. Results: ship departed Pearl Harbor 72 hours after entering dry dock, all combat essential systems operational, made 28 knots during sea trials, successfully participated in Battle of Midway, launched and recovered aircraft under combat conditions, survived 2 additional attack waves before submarine action. Shoemaker pauses, staring at the last line. Survived 2 additional attack waves. The damage at Midway was similar to the damage at Coral Sea. Bomb hits in similar locations, fires in similar compartments, and Yorktown's damage control parties saved the ship using the same techniques they'd used before. The Pearl Harbor repairs, rough and hasty as they were, gave the crew a ship they understood intimately. They knew every patch, every bypass, every jury rig. When similar damage occurred at Midway, they knew exactly how to respond. Lessons learned. 1. Speed matters more than perfection. In wartime, getting a damaged ship back into combat quickly is more valuable than repairing it perfectly. Yorktown's rough repairs held up through another battle. Perfect repairs would have taken months and missed the battle entirely. 2. Prioritization is critical. By categorizing repairs into combat essential, combat enhancing, and non-essential, the yard focused resources on what mattered. Non-skid coating on the flight deck, essential. Painting crew berthing, irrelevant. 3. Bypass is better than repair. Rather than repair destroyed ventilation systems, we bypassed them. Rather than replace damaged electrical cables, we ran temporary lines around them. Rather than rebuild fuel systems, we isolated damaged sections and rerouted. Each bypass saved days. 4. Documentation can wait. We minimized paperwork, inspections, and formal procedures. Ships were approved as working rather than to specification. Post-battle inspection can document deviations. Pre-battle delays cost operational capability. 5. Crew familiarity matters. Yorktown's crew gained intimate knowledge of their ship through the emergency repairs. This knowledge saved the ship multiple times at Midway. Future repairs should involve ship's crew whenever possible to build institutional knowledge. Shoemaker finishes the report and sets down his pen. Yorktown is gone, but her legacy is this. American industrial capacity can compress months of work into days when necessary. Not through magic, but through ruthless prioritization, acceptance of temporary solutions, and willingness to sacrifice perfection for operational tempo. The Japanese don't repair ships this way. They can't. Their industrial culture demands craftsmanship, precision, proper procedures. Those are admirable qualities in peacetime. In war, they're liabilities. July 1942, Naval War College, Newport, Rhode Island. Rear Admiral Chester Nimitz, recently promoted and soon to return to Pearl Harbor, delivers a classified lecture to senior naval officers about the Battle of Midway. Gentlemen, Midway was decided by 3 factors: intelligence, tactics, and industrial capacity. Intelligence gave us advance warning. Tactics allowed us to ambush the Japanese fleet. But industrial capacity, specifically our ability to repair USS Yorktown in 72 hours, gave us the margin of victory. He displays photographs of Yorktown's damage from Coral Sea, then photographs of the repair work at Pearl Harbor. Standard repair estimate, 90 days. Actual repair time, 72 hours. This represents a 30-to-1 compression of normal timelines. How? By abandoning peacetime standards and accepting wartime expedients. The Japanese reported Yorktown sunk at Coral Sea. Their intelligence assessed that even if she survived, repairs would take months at West Coast yards. They planned the Midway operation, assuming we had 2 carriers available, Enterprise and Hornet. Instead, we had 3. That third carrier, the one they thought was dead, launched critical strikes, absorbed attacks that would have targeted other carriers, and created confusion in Japanese tactical planning. captain raises his hand. Admiral, was Yorktown combat effective after the hasty repairs? Or was she a liability? Excellent question, Nimitz replies. Yorktown performed all combat functions at Midway. She launched strikes, recovered aircraft, manoeuvred at high speed, defended herself. Her damage control parties saved the ship twice on June 4th after sustaining bomb and torpedo damage. She remained afloat for 3 days after the battle, despite being abandoned. By any reasonable measure, she was not just combat effective, she exceeded expectations. The 72-hour repairs held up through sustained combat operations. But here's the critical point. Yorktown didn't need to be perfect. She needed to be adequate for one battle. Mission-focused repair allowed us to achieve that goal on an impossible timeline. Another officer asks, is this replicable, or was Yorktown a unique circumstance? It's replicable, Nimitz states firmly. In fact, it must become standard doctrine. We're fighting an attritional war across the Pacific. Ships will be damaged. We cannot send every damaged ship back to the West Coast for 3-month repairs. We must develop rapid battlefield repair capability at forward bases. He displays statistics. Comparative repair times, Japanese practice. Minor damage, return to home yards, 2 to 3 months. Major damage, return to home yards, 6 to 12 months. Critical damage, ship written off as total loss. Traditional US practice, pre-war. Minor damage, return to major yard, 1 to 2 months. Major damage, return to West Coast, 3 to 6 months. Critical damage, extended repair, 12 plus months. Wartime US practice, post-Yorktown. Minor damage, forward base repair, 2 to 7 days. Major damage, forward base stabilization plus limited repair, 1 to 4 weeks. Critical damage, forward base stabilization, then tow to major yard. The difference, Nimitz explains, is accepting temporary repairs that keep ships fighting rather than perfect repairs that keep ships in yards. Japanese carriers Shokaku and Zuikaku were damaged at Coral Sea, similar damage to Yorktown. Both were withdrawn for repairs and missed Midway entirely. Japan chose perfect repairs and lost 2 carriers' worth of combat power at the critical moment. We chose adequate repairs and gained Yorktown's combat power at Midway. That choice decided the battle. September 1942, Bureau of Ships, Washington, D.C. Admiral Edward Cochrane, Chief of the Bureau of Ships, convenes a conference on rapid repair doctrine. Attending are naval architects, shipyard managers, damage control experts, and combat veterans from Midway. Gentlemen, Cochrane begins, the Yorktown experience demonstrates that our peacetime repair standards are incompatible with wartime operational tempo. We must institutionalize rapid repair as doctrine, not exception. He distributes a draft document, Emergency Repair Procedures for Forward Bases. This manual codifies the lessons from Yorktown. Key principles. 1. Triage damage. Category A. Prevents combat operations. Repair immediately. Category B. Degrades combat capability. Repair if time permits. Category C. Non-combat related. Defer repair. 2. Accept temporary solutions. Patches instead of replacement. Bypasses instead of repairs. Jury rigs instead of proper engineering. Quick and functional beats slow and perfect. 3. Minimize inspection and documentation. Test functionality, not compliance. Document deviations after repairs, not during. Approve based on works, not to specification. 4. Prioritize speed. Concurrent operations instead of sequential 24-hour work schedules. Eliminate non-critical delays. Materials requisitioned from any source. 5. Build repair capability forward. Establish advanced bases with repair facilities. Stock critical repair materials at forward locations. Train crew in self-repair techniques. Develop mobile repair ships and tenders. A shipyard manager objects. Admiral, this essentially abandons all quality control. We'll have ships at sea with substandard repairs, untested systems, temporary patches. The safety risks are acceptable, Cochrane interrupts. Compared to the strategic risk of keeping damaged ships out of combat for months, yes, we'll have ships operating with temporary repairs. Yes, there will be additional maintenance burden. Yes, some systems won't be perfect, but we'll have ships fighting instead of ships repairing. And in a war of attrition across the Pacific, that's the difference between winning and losing. A combat veteran, commander who served aboard Enterprise at Midway, speaks up. Admiral, I watched Yorktown at Midway. She was obviously damaged. You could see the patches, the repairs, the scars from Coral Sea. But she fought effectively. Her aircraft launched on time, her guns fired accurately, her crew performed professionally. The Japanese didn't sink her because her repairs were temporary. They sank her because she was a carrier in combat, and carriers get sunk. The temporary repairs kept her fighting until then. That's all we can ask. Cochrane nods. Exactly. The goal isn't ships that last forever. The goal is ships that fight now. If a temporary repair keeps a ship in combat for 6 months before it needs proper repair, that's 6 months of combat capability we wouldn't have otherwise. Yorktown lasted 3 weeks on her Pearl Harbor repairs. In that time, she participated in the most important naval battle of the Pacific War. Those 3 weeks were worth more than the 3 months of proper repair we didn't have time to complete. The Doctrine is approved. Within months, every forward base in the Pacific will have emergency repair capabilities. Ships will be triaged, patched, and returned to combat on timelines that would have been considered impossible before Yorktown demonstrated what American industrial will could accomplish. March 1943. Espiritu Santo, New Hebrides Islands. 9 months after Yorktown's 72-hour repair, the lessons have been institutionalized across the Pacific Fleet. Commander Harold Stassen, newly assigned as Assistant Chief of Staff for the South Pacific Force, inspects the forward repair base at Espiritu Santo. What he finds is a revelation. The island base has been transformed into a floating shipyard. Repair ships, floating dry docks, supply depots, machine shops, all positioned thousands of miles from the nearest major yard. It's designed around one principle: get damaged ships back into combat fast. Welcome to our rapid repair facility, the base commander explains. We can handle everything from minor battle damage to catastrophic structural repairs. Average turnaround time for major damage, 14 days. For minor damage, 72 hours. Stassen examines the facility. In the harbour, he sees cruiser USS San Francisco, heavily damaged in the naval battle of Guadalcanal 3 months ago. Her bridge was destroyed by Japanese shells, her superstructure shattered, 45 sailors killed including Admiral Callahan. San Francisco, the commander notes, arrived here January 15th with massive topside damage. Traditional repair would require return to West Coast, 6 months minimum. We assessed the damage, prioritised what affects combat capability, and started work. Flight deck? She doesn't have one. She's a cruiser, so we don't care about superstructure aesthetics. Bridge destroyed? We built a temporary bridge from prefab materials. Fire control damaged? We cannibalized systems from other ships and jury-rigged solutions. Below waterline damage? That we repaired properly because it affects seaworthiness. Result? San Francisco will be combat-ready March 20th, 64 days from arrival to departure, compared to 6 months at Mare Island. Stassen shakes his head in amazement. You're telling me a cruiser that should be stateside for half a year will be back in combat in 2 months? Correct. She won't be pretty. Her bridge is a temporary structure. Her superstructure looks like a construction site. But her engines work, her guns fire, her hull is sound. She can fight. That's all that matters. They walk to another berth where destroyer USS Aaron Ward is being repaired. She took a bomb hit during the Guadalcanal campaign, destroyed her forward gun mount, killed several crew members, damaged her bow structure. Aaron Ward arrived February 1st, the commander explains. Bomb damage forward. Traditional repair, 3 months at Pearl Harbor. Our approach? Cut away destroyed structure, weld steel plates over the damage, restore functionality. We're not rebuilding to original specifications, we're stabilizing and restoring combat capability. She'll depart March 5th, 32 days. The forward section looks rough, but all weapon systems are operational. Propulsion is restored. The ship is seaworthy. Stassen examines the repair work. It's ugly, visible welds, mismatched steel, rough patches. But it's functional. Aaron Ward can fight. This is exactly what Admiral Nimitz described, Stassen says. Yorktown Doctrine, Adequate and fast beats perfect and slow. Yes, sir. We've repaired 23 ships here since November. Average time in yard, 18 days. If we'd sent them to West Coast yards, average time, 4 months. We've gained 74 days per ship. That's 1,702 ship days of additional combat capability from 23 vessels. Show me the statistics, Stassen requests. The commander leads him to operations planning, where a large board tracks every damaged ship in the South Pacific. Forward repair base statistics, November 1942 to March 1943. Ships repaired, 23. Destroyers, 12. Cruisers, 6. Auxiliaries, 5. Average repair time, 18 days. Minor damage, 3 to 7 days. Major damage, 14 to 28 days. Critical damage, 30 to 45 days. Comparison to traditional repair. Minor damage, 30 to 45 days, West Coast. Major damage, 60 to 120 days, West Coast. Critical damage, 120 to 180 days, West Coast. Combat capability gained. 1,702 ship days returned to combat early, equivalent to adding 7 to 8 additional ships to the fleet. 0 ships lost due to inadequate repairs. The last statistic is critical, the commander emphasizes. 0 ships lost due to inadequate repairs. We were concerned that temporary repairs might fail under combat stress, leading to ship loss. It hasn't happened. Our rapid repairs hold up through sustained operations. Why? Because we prioritize correctly. We repair what matters: hull integrity, propulsion, weapons, damage control systems. We defer what doesn't matter: cosmetics, crew comfort, non-essential systems. A ship with ugly welds but sound structure is combat effective. A ship with beautiful paintwork but unrepaired damage is not. Stassen makes extensive notes. This forward repair capability is a strategic weapon. It multiplies effective fleet size by keeping damaged ships in combat instead of in yards. June 1943, Naval War College Analysis. A team of operational researchers completes a comprehensive study. The strategic value of rapid repair. Executive summary. Problem statement. In attritional naval warfare, both sides suffer damage. The side that returns damaged ships to combat faster gains cumulative advantage over time. Case study, USS Yorktown. Damaged at Coral Sea, May 8, 1942. Traditional repair estimate, 90 days. Actual repair time, 3 days, 72 hours. Time advantage, 87 days. Combat effectiveness, 100%. Participated fully in Battle of Midway. Survival time, 27 days from repair to sinking. Strategic impact, critical to victory at Midway. Analysis. If Yorktown had been sent to West Coast for traditional 90-day repair, she would have departed San Francisco approximately August 6, 1942, 67 days after the Battle of Midway. The battle would have been fought with 2 American carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, against 4 Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu. Historical outcome with 3 carriers. Decisive American victory. All 4 Japanese carriers sunk, 1 American carrier sunk. Projected outcome with 2 carriers. Uncertain, likely American defeat or Pyrrhic victory with multiple American carriers lost. Conclusion. The 72-hour repair of Yorktown was strategically decisive. Mathematical model, fleet size over time, equals initial size plus construction rate minus combat losses plus repairs completed. Traditional repair strategy, high-quality repairs, 99% effectiveness, long repair times, average 90 days major damage, ships removed from combat for extended periods, effective fleet size reduced during repair cycle. Rapid repair strategy, adequate repairs, 95% effectiveness, short repair times, average 18 days major damage, ships return to combat quickly, effective fleet size maintained during repair cycle, time advantage, 72 days average per damaged ship, over 1 year with 50 ships damaged. Traditional strategy, 3,600 ship days lost to repair. Rapid repair strategy, 900 ship days lost to repair. Advantage, 2,700 ship days. Equals equivalent of 7.4 additional ships in fleet. Strategic implications. Force multiplication. Rapid repair effectively increases fleet size without building new ships. At Pacific War damage rates, forward repair bases provide combat capability equivalent to 15 to 20% more ships. Attrition advantage. In attritional warfare, the side that sustains damaged ships longer wins. Japan repairs slowly. No forward bases, all repairs at home islands. US repairs rapidly. Forward bases throughout Pacific. This creates cumulative advantage. Crew retention. Rapid repair keeps experienced crews with their ships. Traditional repair disperses crews to new ships, losing accumulated expertise. Yorktown's damage control success at Midway resulted from crew familiarity with their ship's specific damage and repairs. Psychological impact. Ships that return from death, like Yorktown reported sunk at Coral Sea, damage enemy morale and intelligence assessments. Japanese planning for Midway assumed Yorktown was unavailable, creating strategic surprise. Recommendations. Expand forward repair bases throughout Pacific. Develop specialized repair ships and floating dry docks. Train all crews in self-repair techniques. Stockpile critical repair materials at forward locations. Institutionalize rapid repair doctrine in all fleets. Accept that ships will operate with character, visible repairs, temporary systems. Plan maintenance cycles assuming ships will be damaged and returned to service multiple times. The report is distributed to all fleet commanders. Rapid repair transforms from emergency expedient to standard doctrine. September 1943, Ulithi Atoll, Caroline Islands. 18 months after Yorktown's repair, the Pacific Fleet has built the most sophisticated forward repair capability in naval history. Ulithi Atoll, captured from Japan and transformed into an advanced base, contains 3 floating dry docks capable of handling battleships, 12 repair ships specialized for different damage types, 4 destroyer tenders, 2 submarine tenders, extensive supply depots, repair materials, spare parts, ammunition, quarters for 20,000 support personnel, machine shops, foundries, electrical shops, fuel storage, 7 million gallons, aviation support facilities. Captain Worrell Carter, Ulithi Base Commander, oversees an industrial operation that would be impressive in peacetime, astonishing in war. We can repair anything short of a sunk ship, Carter explains to visiting admirals. Torpedo damage? We patch it in days. Bomb damage? We weld and restore. Kamikaze hits? We cut away destroyed structure and rebuild. Engine damage? We have spare parts or we fabricate them. Average time from damage to departure: 11 days for major damage, 3 days for minor damage. We're operating at greater efficiency than Yorktown's emergency repair because we've institutionalized the process. In the atoll, carrier USS Bunker Hill is being repaired after kamikaze damage, her flight deck holed, her island structure damaged, fires throughout the ship. Traditional repair, 4 months at West Coast Yard. Ulithi estimate, 21 days. Battleship USS South Dakota is repairing battle damage from shore bombardment, shell hits on superstructure, damaged fire control, destroyed gun mounts. Traditional repair, 3 months. Ulithi estimate, 14 days. Destroyer USS Laffey is repairing after surviving 6 kamikaze hits and 4 bomb strikes, the most damaged ship to survive the war. Traditional assessment, total loss, recommends scrapping. Ulithi assessment, repairable in 45 days. The Japanese can't comprehend what we're doing here, Carter says. They damage our ships, report them sunk or heavily damaged, assume they're out of the war for months. 2 weeks later, those same ships are back in combat. It's not magic, it's industrial capability applied systematically. Yorktown showed us what's possible in emergency. Ulithi shows what's possible when you build an entire industrial system around rapid repair. We're not just fixing ships, We're providing strategic advantage through operational tempo. May 1998, Naval War College Museum, Newport, Rhode Island. 56 years after the Battle of Midway, the museum opens a special exhibition. USS Yorktown, the ship that refused to die. Among the attendees is retired Rear Admiral Greenbacker, now 92 years old, one of the last surviving officers from Yorktown's crew. He walks slowly through the exhibition, leaning on a cane, examining artifacts recovered from the wreck when it was discovered in 1998 by Robert Ballard's expedition. A piece of the flight deck. Patched at Pearl Harbor in May 1942, bombed at Midway in June 1942, now sitting in a museum case. That patch saved my life, Greenbacker tells the young naval officers accompanying him. Not because it kept bombs from penetrating. It didn't. Bombs went right through it. But because the 72-hour repair gave us a ship that could fight at Midway. Without that repair, we'd have sent 2 carriers against 4. The odds would have been impossible. Sir, one of the young officers asks, was the rapid repair doctrine, the Yorktown model, used throughout the war? Used? Son, it won the war. Not in one dramatic moment, but through cumulative advantage over 4 years. He points to a display showing statistics. Pacific War repair statistics, 1942 to 1945. Ships damaged in combat, 1,847 ships repaired at forward bases, 1,203, 65%. Average forward base repair time, 16 days. Average traditional repair time, 94 days. Time advantage, 78 days per ship. Cumulative advantage, 93,834 ship days returned to combat early. Equivalent combat capability, 257 estimated ships. Estimated cost savings, $3.2 billion, $1945. Ships lost due to inadequate rapid repair, 0.2%. Think about that, Greenbacker says. Rapid repair gave us the equivalent of 257 additional ships without building a single new hull. That's 15 aircraft carriers worth of combat power, for free essentially, just by fixing damaged ships faster. But sir, another officer asks, didn't the rapid repairs compromise ship safety? Lower quality standards, temporary patches, jury-rigged systems? Did they compromise safety? Yes, marginally. Yorktown's temporary repairs were less robust than proper repairs would have been. Ships operated with substandard systems, visible damage, temporary solutions. But here's what you need to understand. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. A ship with temporary repairs fighting at Midway is infinitely more valuable than a ship with perfect repairs sitting in California during the battle. Yorktown's 72-hour repair was good enough to fight, and that's all it needed to be. He moves to a display showing comparative photos. Yorktown entering Pearl Harbor on May 27, 1942, heavily damaged, and Yorktown departing Pearl Harbor on May 30, 1942, patched and functional. Look at the difference, 72 hours, from wreck to warship. The Japanese couldn't conceive of repair on that timeline. Their industrial culture demanded proper work, correct procedures, full restoration to original specifications. That's admirable in peacetime. In war, it's fatal. While Japanese carriers sat in yards for months receiving perfect repairs, American carriers were back in combat with adequate repairs. Over time, that operational tempo advantage became decisive. May 1998, Museum Theatre presentation. The museum director, a civilian historian specializing in Pacific naval warfare, gives a lecture about Yorktown to the assembled visitors, military officers, and naval historians. USS Yorktown represents a pivotal moment in the evolution of naval warfare, he begins. Not because of her combat record, though that was distinguished, but because of what her rapid repair demonstrated about American industrial capacity. He displays a timeline. May 8, 1942, Yorktown damaged at Coral Sea. May 27, 1942, arrives Pearl Harbor. May 30, 1942, departs Pearl Harbor, 72 hours later. June 4, 1942, fights at Midway. June 7, 1942. Sinks after submarine attack. Total operational life after Coral Sea damage, 30 days. In those 30 days, the historian explains, Yorktown participated in the most important naval battle of the Pacific War. Her presence at Midway was strategically decisive, not just through her combat contribution, but through the psychological and tactical confusion she created. Japanese intelligence assessed Yorktown as sunk or heavily damaged at Coral Sea. They planned Midway assuming 2 American carriers. The appearance of a third carrier, one they believed was dead, created confusion that contributed to their defeat. He displays intercepted Japanese communications from Midway. Enemy carriers sighted, 3 vessels. Identification uncertain. One appears to be Yorktown class, but Yorktown was sunk at Coral Sea. Recommend immediate strike on all 3 carriers. Intelligence assessment may be incorrect. Second strike reports. Yorktown class carrier burning heavily, assessed as sinking. Reconnaissance reports. 3 carriers still operational. One identified as Yorktown. Impossible, we just sank her. The confusion is evident, the historian notes. Japanese commanders couldn't reconcile what they were seeing. 3 carriers, including one they thought they'd already sunk, with what intelligence had told them. This confusion degraded their tactical decision-making at a critical moment. But the real lesson isn't tactical, it's industrial. The Americans demonstrated a capability the Japanese couldn't match: rapid repair and return to combat. This capability multiplied effective fleet size throughout the war. He displays a comparative chart. Japanese carrier repair times. Shokaku, damaged Coral Sea, May 1942. Damage, 3 bomb hits, similar to Yorktown. Repair location, Kure Naval Arsenal, Japan. Repair time, 3 months. Missed, Battle of Midway. Zuikaku, aircraft losses. Coral Sea, May 1942. Damage, minimal ship damage, heavy aircrew losses. Repair location, Japan, aircrew replacement and training. Repair time, 2 months. Missed, Battle of Midway. Compare to Yorktown, 72-hour repair, returned to combat immediately, participated in Midway. The difference? American willingness to accept adequate repairs over perfect repairs, speed over perfection, functionality over completeness. This philosophy, rapid repair doctrine, became one of America's strategic advantages in the Pacific. By 1945, the US operated forward repair bases throughout the Pacific that could handle major damage in days or weeks rather than months. The Japanese never developed equivalent capability. Damaged ships returned to home islands for months of repair. The cumulative effect: American effective fleet size remained higher despite similar combat losses. May 1998, evening reception. Admiral Greenbacker sits with a group of current naval officers discussing modern applications of Yorktown's lessons. "Sir," a young lieutenant commander asks, "does rapid repair doctrine still apply in modern naval warfare? Ships today are so much more complex: computer systems, advanced radars, integrated weapons. Can you really jury-rig repairs like you did in World War II?" Greenbacker considers the question carefully. The technology changes, the principle doesn't. Yorktown's lesson wasn't about specific repair techniques, it was about philosophy. Speed matters more than perfection when ships are needed in combat. Today, you might not be welding steel patches, you might be swapping computer modules, rerouting fiber optics, reprogramming software, but the core principle remains: fix what prevents combat operations, defer what doesn't, accept temporary solutions, get the ship back in the fight. During Desert Storm, he continues, I read about USS Princeton hitting a mine in the Persian Gulf. Significant damage, cracked keel, flooded compartments. Traditional doctrine: send her home for major yard period. Instead, repair ships stabilized her, patched critical damage, got her operational in 3 weeks. That's Yorktown doctrine applied to modern warfare. A captain adds, "We saw the same thing after USS Cole was bombed in 2000. Massive hole in the side, 17 sailors killed, destroyer nearly sunk. Traditional assessment: total loss or year-long repair. Instead, we stabilized her, Heavy lifted her onto a transport ship, got her to a shipyard, had her back in service in just over a year. Rapid response based on World War II lessons. Exactly, Greenbacker agrees. The technology evolves, the enemies change. But the fundamental truth remains. In war, adequate and fast beats perfect and slow. Yorktown proved that in 1942. The principle still holds. May 1998. Ballard expedition footage. The museum displays footage from Robert Ballard's discovery of USS Yorktown's wreck, 16,650 feet below the Pacific surface. The images are haunting. Yorktown's flight deck, still bearing the patches from Pearl Harbor. Her island structure, collapsed but recognizable. Her hull, torn by torpedo damage, but remarkably intact after 56 years on the ocean floor. The wreck tells the story of her death, the museum curator explains to visitors. 2 torpedo hits from submarine I-168, striking almost the same locations as previous damage. The ship listed heavily, was abandoned, but refused to sink for nearly 24 hours. Even in death, Yorktown was stubborn. The footage shows the bomb damage from Midway. Patches welded over patches, repairs on repairs. The archaeological record of a ship that was damaged, repaired, damaged again, repaired again, and finally killed by a submarine. What strikes archaeologists, the curator continues, is the quality of the Pearl Harbor repairs visible on the wreck. The welds held, the patches remained intact. The jury-rigged repairs survived not just the transit to Midway, but multiple combat engagements. The hasty emergency repairs were good enough, which was exactly what they needed to be. Admiral Greenbacker watches the footage silently. After a long moment, he speaks. She was a good ship. We saved her at Coral Sea. We saved her at Pearl Harbor. We saved her twice at Midway. The submarine finally got her when she was helpless. But she fought until she couldn't fight anymore. That's all you can ask of a ship or a crew. May 1998. Closing ceremony. The museum exhibition closes with a plaque dedication. The plaque, made from steel recovered from Yorktown's wreck, bears an inscription: USS Yorktown, CV-5, the ship that refused to die. Commissioned, September 30th, 1937. Lost, June 7th, 1942. Battles, Coral Sea, Midway. Emergency repair, entered dry dock, May 27th, 1942. Departed dry dock, May 30th, 1942. 72 hours from wreck to warrior. Legacy. Proved that speed matters more than perfection. Demonstrated American industrial capacity. Established rapid repair as strategic doctrine. Provided decisive margin at Battle of Midway. We fix what matters. We defer what doesn't. We accept temporary solutions. We get ships back in the fight. That's how we win. Admiral Greenbacker unveils the plaque. The assembled officers and historians stand in silence, honouring a ship that was reported sunk twice, repaired impossibly fast, fought in the most important naval battle of the Pacific War, and finally died only after refusing to sink for 3 days. Yorktown's lesson, Greenbacker says in his brief remarks, is not about heroism, though her crew was heroic. It's not about tactics, though her aircraft flew brilliantly. It's about industrial philosophy. Build adequate ships in quantity. Repair damaged ships rapidly. Accept imperfection if it means operational availability. The Japanese built beautiful ships to exacting standards. We built adequate ships fast. They repaired perfectly. We repaired quickly. They optimized for quality. We optimized for quantity and tempo. That choice, speed over perfection, won the Pacific War. Yorktown proved it could be done. Thousands of subsequent repairs proved it was sustainable, and the cumulative advantage, ships fighting instead of ships repairing, was strategically decisive. So when you remember Yorktown, don't just remember her combat record. Remember the 72 hours at Pearl Harbor. Remember the civilian yard workers who compressed 3 months of work into 3 days. Remember the damage control parties who saved her multiple times. Remember the decision to prioritize speed over perfection. Because that decision, that willingness to accept good enough, is what American industrial warfare looks like, and it's what wins wars. The ceremony concludes. The museum exhibition will run for 2 years, educating thousands of visitors about the carrier that was damaged at Coral Sea, repaired in 72 hours, fought at Midway, and changed naval warfare forever. Not through perfection, through speed. Epilogue. The numbers don't lie. USS Yorktown statistical summary. Damage sustained. Coral Sea, 2 bomb hits, multiple casualties, extensive damage. Midway, first attack. 3 bomb hits, fires, structural damage. Midway, second attack. 2 torpedo hits, severe listing, power loss. Submarine attack. 2 torpedo hits, fatal damage. Repairs completed. Pearl Harbor, 72 hours, May 27th to 30th, 1942. At sea, Coral Sea transit. Continuous emergency repairs. Midway, between attacks, 2.5 hours. Total, repaired and returned to combat 4 separate times. Combat effectiveness. Operated at full capability after 72-hour repair. Launched strikes at Midway. Recovered aircraft under combat conditions. Defended against multiple attacks. Remained afloat 3 days after being abandoned. Strategic impact. Provided third carrier at Midway. Decisive margin. Created intelligence confusion for Japanese. Demonstrated rapid repair capability. Established doctrine used throughout war. Forward repair bases based on Yorktown model. Repaired 1,203 ships, 1942 to 1945. Cumulative advantage, equivalent to 257 additional ships. The Japanese reported Yorktown sunk twice. She survived both times until a submarine finally caught her helpless. The Americans repaired damage in 72 hours that should have taken 90 days. The repairs held through sustained combat. That's not luck. That's industrial capacity. That's American warfare. And that's how the Pacific was won. Not ship by ship, not battle by battle, but through the unglamorous arithmetic of repair cycles, operational tempo, and the willingness to send adequate ships to fight instead of perfect ships to yards. USS Yorktown, CV-5. September 30th, 1937, June 7th, 1942. Age at death? 4 years, 8 months, 7 days. Too short a life, but long enough to change history.